Hello, we are Group 4 and we are going to be blurring the borders at Pretoria Zoo. What is the purpose of a zoo? The zoo is no longer just a place to watch animals in cages. Under SANBI, the zoo aims to conserve biodiversity, educate, engage, research and develop economically and socially. Our first impressions of the zoo are that there is already a strong green infrastructure, recycling initiatives, and different streams of income generation. But the zoo faces issues like degrading infrastructure, it is challenging to navigate, and the learning areas are not well developed.
So let's take a look at actors and users. We identified mainly 3 different age groups, all with different needs, but the thing that correlates the most between them all is us ensuring accessibility and engagement for all of them, and this includes children, young adults, and the elderly. To connect additional archetypes currently disconnected or lacking in the zoo, we aim to promote community involvement, economical opportunities, and perhaps even biodiversity conservation, which benefits residents, traders, and local ecosystems. So let's take a look at the development of the city. It's predominantly the ridges and specifically Arpies River that shape Pretoria as we see it today. Pretoria's natural landmarks made it an ideal settlement location, while urban growth expanded in the east-west direction later on, influenced by all these natural elements and concentrated around them. Church Square serves as the city's heart, and it links Pretoria to the surrounding gateways, which symbolizes the connection between city and nature. The northern gateway aligns with Church Square, connecting key nodes across the city. The green areas also highlight significant natural landmarks, with the zoo potentially added to this network. We also identified several different educational nodes near the Pretoria Zoo, signaling a concentration of learning spaces. We aim to establish an additional prominent educational node within the zoo, incorporating didactic design principles. So next up, we'll look at site mapping, starting with history and cultural significance. So we just identified a few buildings on site which hold very high cultural values, such as the Sammy Marks Fountain, the Old Elephant Enclosure, the Dutch building adjacent to that, and also the old museum at the entry of the site. So next up is the biomes and fauna and flora. So the site itself includes Gold Reef Mountain bushveld and Marikana thornveld. So the mix of exotic, indigenous and invasive species highlights both conservation opportunities but also challenges. Indigenous species present the potential for habitat restoration, while as invasive species require more management to ensure ecological balance. Additionally, the ridge's ecosystem needs very careful attention to protect the soil stability. If we look at the microclimate, so the south-facing building requires designs that maximize sunlight exposure, while the prevailing winds necessitate windbreaks for winter and ventilation for summer. Frost pockets in the low-lying areas also affect plant selection. Several significant viewpoints have been identified as well, particularly from the ridge overlooking the city, as well as areas of high natural amenity along the river, which enhances the scenic value as well. Given the ridge's states to sensitivity to development, our focus will be more on strengthening the green corridor along the river, preserving its ecological integrity. Then we'll look at circulation. So the orange markings indicate primary circulation routes. So the river also actually serves as a natural water circulation system, and we aim to develop the corridor from the lower to the upper right side of the site, creating a more continuous ecological and recreational path.
I went to the zoo on a weekend, and it seems like there is an oversaturation of shops in comparison to zoo visitors, which is probably why some of them remain closed at peak hours. There is no clear animal organization according to country or continent. It's more difficult to traverse the northern part of the site as it is steeper. This is where we find the ridge. The 2 steepest areas have different soil compositions. The ridge is quartzite, and next to the river is a grey-brown sandy loam which is heavily planted. The elephant enclosure has a yellow-brown mottle sandy loam. There is an extensive stormwater drainage system. We used Grasshopper to map how the rainwater runs on the site. Because of the slope, rainwater drains fast on the northern slope and is more likely to cause corrosion. Majority of the water on the northern portion travels towards the hippo, pygmy hippo and retention pools, unless it runs into the river in the stormwater drainage. The zoo uses borehole, grey water, and municipal water to meet its water needs, which is great. So let's consider all of this information in order to do some analysis for our sites in the form of a sensitivity map. Human development is more prevalent in the south of the site. The zoo comprises of 2 ecological zones, the majority of which is the Marikana Thornveld, an endangered and underprotected ecosystem. The northern site has 2 distinct steep areas, one being the ridge, and these are more prone to water erosion. Using these maps, we can create a sensitivity map. To do this, we nominate a score on the regions of each map based on its sensitivity, 3 being the most sensitive. We overlay the maps and outline the overlapping areas, thereby adding the scores of each map in that region. In the sensitivity map, we can see that the most sensitive areas are the ridge where the lion and tiger enclosures are, and the aviary. These are areas that have human development, steep slopes, and are in the threatened Marikana Thornveld.
So our SWOT analysis identified several key strengths of the site. The river supports biodiversity and ecological benefits, while strong infrastructure, including roads and historic buildings, do add value. Existing recycling initiatives promote sustainability, and the diverse animal collection also offers opportunity for immersive design. The weaknesses we identify include a lack of immersive experiences, and maintenance of the existing infrastructure is a challenge. The river's infrastructure does not support both flooding and waste catchments at the same time. Limited accessibility and user disconnection from the river are also concerns. The opportunities for the site includes repurposing the empty buildings, and the greenhouse can enhance community engagement. Eco-toning different habitats and rehabilitating the river present further ecological and experiential opportunities. The threats we identified include aged infrastructure, which poses a risk to the site's long-term viability. Contaminated water is also a concern, presenting a health threat to both animals and visitors. The high traffic street at the entrance, Boom Street, negatively influences user attraction and accessibility. Additionally, there are safety concerns within the city which may deter visitors, and there is a prevalent misconception about the zoo and its offerings, which can affect the public perception and engagement. So we made a mind map that highlights the key barriers: limited accessibility, inclusivity, education, habitat fragmentation, and user isolation. So to address these, we propose 3 main approaches, which include connections between city and zoo, natures to users, and users to each other, supported by various sub-strategies. These efforts will then ultimately drive ecological and societal improvements. So the first connection we're going to focus on is the city to the zoo. If we consider this axis linkage within the broader context of Pretoria, we can connect significant natural landmarks throughout the city and actually see that the center point of this axis will be the elephant enclosure. The layout of our visual plan will actually be informed by this axis, creating a pathway that ties together these important landmarks and also strengthens the relationship between the zoo and the urban environment. This approach will enhance both accessibility and also the overall experience. The first strategy we'll look at is creating a walkable city. So this focus is on paths leading to the zoo. This will include inclusive crossings, clear signage, and plenty of greenery to actually mitigate the heat island effect. So this will enhance accessibility, provide easy navigation, and also create just a much more pleasant experience. The next strategy we'll focus on is creating a green corridor. So we propose creating little parklets at key points throughout the city, connecting them to spaces within the zoo precinct. These parklets will serve as green spaces for recreation or even nature connection. So additionally, we will create edible gardens, which will benefit to small businesses and also surrounding communities, because we'll provide fresh produce and promote sustainability and community engagement. And then the final strategy will be public transport. So this is to offer safe and accessible options to the zoo. This will include bike lanes and pathways for pedestrians and cyclists. And enhancing this public transport access will actually increase visitor numbers and then essentially profits as well, and also reduce congestion in front of the entrance of the zoo.
The zoo is a space where people can meet and take lekker selfies. By accommodating for these human activities, the zoo can remove the busy borders between people and create memories. Animals are also users of this space, and when we connect people to them with intentional design, we can have more meaningful interactions with nature. The climax of this presentation is the connection of people to nature. This vision connects the ridge, river, elephant enclosure, and greenhouse and recycling areas. We took into consideration the new entrance being developed on the northern portion. Each area has approaches that are in line with our intention of blurring the borders. At the ridge, we suggest planting more indigenous plants and removing the existing ailing species. We suggest doing this not only in the enclosure, but also introducing nature to the pathways, so that one can feel more connected with the animals. At the river and up the hill, we suggest creating a bioswale from the new entrance to the existing bridge to create a water feature and filter rainwater heading to the retention pools and the river. KWP would like to introduce a new litter trap at the end of the river, and we would like to as well. The bioswale becomes a feature where people can relax near, traverse next to, or play with. By creating a completely natural space, one can be immersed in nature. Noting, plants closer to the water are moisture tolerant. In the elephant enclosure, we suggest interactive bioswales, where people can interact with water. KWP wants to make an auditorium here, and for this we suggest sculpturing the landscape. In the rest of this space are parklets and outdoor living rooms for recreating. Sitting close to indigenous and water-resistant plants, one is also delighted by the presence of birds, which these plants attract. This is a space where one is completely immersed in nature. The borders between human and nature are completely blurred. Finally, in the greenhouse space, we can directly interact with the city. A refurbished greenhouse can be a place for growing plants which local salespeople use as stock to sell, and the composting area can be used by local residents to drop off green waste. With our design, this zoo can become a place that is integral to the city, where people can connect with each other and connect with nature in a meaningful way.